The most dangerous person in your life isn't the one screaming at you. It's the one who has quietly stopped arguing. There is a specific moment that happens right before someone decides to burn a bridge forever. A moment that is almost invisible from the outside but deafening on the inside. It's not an explosion. It's a click. A switch flips in the dark, and suddenly the emotional labor of explaining themselves one more time becomes heavier than the pain of losing you. We call it ghosting or cutting ties, and we usually frame it as an act of cruelty. But for the person walking away, it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like the only way to keep their head above water. They don't leave because they want to hurt you. They leave because staying feels like dying. And once that switch flips, there is no going back. The text messages stop. The plans get canceled. The presence you took for granted simply evaporates. But what actually happens in the human brain to push someone to this extreme? And why do the people who seem the strongest, the most patient, and the most loyal often end up being the ones who leave the most abruptly? To understand the anatomy of the door slam, we have to look at what was happening long before the silence began. Because contrary to popular belief, nobody cuts everyone off overnight. The decision to walk away is rarely a sudden impulse. It is the final scene of a very long movie that nobody else was watching. Most people who reach this point share a specific personality profile. They are often the fixers, the listeners, the emotional containers. They are the friends you call at 2 a.m. when your world is falling apart. They are the siblings who handle the crisis while everyone else panics. They are the partners who say it's fine when it absolutely isn't. For years, they have operated under a silent contract. If I am useful, I am safe. If I am strong, I am worthy. They learned early on, perhaps in childhood, that their needs were inconvenient. Maybe they had parents who were emotionally volatile, teaching them that they had to suppress their own feelings to manage the atmosphere of the house. Or maybe they were praised constantly for being low maintenance and mature for their age. Whatever the origin, the lesson was the same. You are here to absorb, not to emit. You are here to carry, not to lean. So they endure. They swallow small disrespects. They rationalize being interrupted. They accept apologies that aren't followed by changed behavior. They become masters of giving the benefit of the doubt. They tell themselves they didn't mean it, or they're just going through a hard time, or I can handle this, I'm strong. But the human psyche is like a physical structure. It has load-bearing walls, and you can only stack so much weight on a load-bearing wall before the structural integrity is compromised. This leads to a psychological phenomenon known as emotional saturation. Imagine a sponge. You can pour water onto a sponge and it will absorb it. It's designed to absorb it. But there is a mathematical limit. Once that sponge is 100% saturated, you can pour a single drop more, just one tiny insignificant drop, and the water will spill everywhere. From the outside, the person on the receiving end sees the spill and thinks, "Why are you reacting like this over one drop of water?" They don't see the gallon of water already held inside the sponge. When someone cuts everyone off, it is usually triggered by that one final drop. It might be a canceled plan, a sarcastic comment, or a forgotten birthday. To the world, the reaction looks disproportionate. You're ending a 10-year friendship over this? But it's never about this. It's about the 10 years of unvoiced exhaustion that this just unlocked. At this stage, the brain enters a protective state. Neurologically, chronic emotional stress pushes the nervous system out of its window of tolerance. When we are stressed, we typically go into fight or flight. We argue, fight, or we leave the room. Flight. But when the stress is chronic, when you feel unheard and unseen for years in your closest relationships, the nervous system can shift into a freeze state. This is often called functional freeze. You're still going to work, you're still buying groceries, you're still smiling at the cashier, but emotionally the shutters have come down. You detach, you stop caring about the outcome of conversations because you already know how they will end. This detachment isn't malice, it's anesthesia. Your brain has decided that since it cannot fix the pain of the relationship, it will simply stop feeling it. And this is where the silence begins. People often mistake this silence for punishment. They think the person is giving them the silent treatment to teach them a lesson. But the psychology of the person who cuts everyone off is rarely that manipulative. They aren't trying to teach you anything. They are trying to survive you. They stop explaining because they have realized that their words are essentially a foreign currency that you do not accept. They have explained their hurt in kindness. They have explained it in anger. They have hinted at it. They have cried over it, and nothing changed. So logically, they conclude that communication is a waste of energy, and they have no energy left to waste. When they finally initiate the cutoff, blocking the numbers, deleting the social media, ghosting the group chat, the immediate sensation is not sadness. It is an overwhelming, intoxicating rush of relief. It feels like putting down a heavy backpack you didn't realize you were wearing for a decade. Suddenly, there is no one to manage, no one to anticipate, no one to disappoint. The nervous system, which has been vibrating at a high frequency of hypervigilance for years, finally exhales. This initial phase creates a false sense of permanent solution. The person thinks, this is it. I've fixed my life. I am better off alone. They revel in the control. They construct a fortress of solitude and stand on the ramparts breathing the clean air of isolation. They confuse the absence of pain with the presence of peace. But peace and numbness are cousins, not twins. And usually around the 3 or 6 month mark, the second phase begins. This is the phase nobody warns you about. Because while cutting people off removes the noise, it also removes the mirrors. We human beings are relational creatures. We form our identities in the reflection of others. We know who we are partly by how we interact with our friends, our family, our community. When you remove all the mirrors, you stop seeing yourself clearly. The silence, once golden, starts to echo. This is where identity fatigue sets in. Many people who cut everyone off struggle to know who they are when they aren't being useful to someone. If your entire self-worth was built on being the helper, the listener, the reliable one, who are you when there is no one to help? Who are you when the phone doesn't ring? You might find yourself sitting in a quiet apartment, finally having the time to do whatever you want, and realizing you don't actually know what you want. You know what your mother wanted, you know what your ex-partner wanted, you know what your boss wanted, but you are a stranger to yourself. And then the grief arrives. It's a strange, delayed grief. It's not just grieving the people you left, it's grieving the version of yourself that tried so hard to make it work. You grieve the hope you had. You grieve the potential of what those relationships could have been if only they had met you halfway. You might start to bargain with yourself. The brain, craving connection, starts to edit the memories. It highlights the good times and blurs the bad ones. It whispers, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I'm the toxic one. Maybe I should just send a text. This is the danger zone. This is where people often break their own boundaries and return to the exact same dynamic, only to be hurt again. Or conversely, they double down on their isolation, convinced that their wavering resolve is a sign of weakness. They develop what psychologists call relational hypervigilance. Because they were burned so badly by the people they trusted, they now view all connection as a potential threat. When a new person enters their life, someone kind, someone healthy, they don't feel excitement. They feel anxiety. They scan for red flags like a soldier in enemy territory. A delayed text message isn't just a busy day, it's a sign of disinterest. A small disagreement isn't a normal part of human interaction, it's a precursor to abuse. They interpret neutral actions as dangerous. They might maintain superficial friendships, keeping people at arm's length. They become the fun friend who never talks about their real life. They perform connection, but they don't inhabit it. They are physically present, but emotionally they are always standing by the exit door, ready to run. This is a tragedy because the person who cuts everyone off is usually the person who craves deep connection the most. They have so much love to give. They are fiercely loyal. They are deeply empathetic. But they have trapped all that love behind a wall because they don't trust themselves to dispense it safely. They don't trust others not to hurt them, yes. But more importantly, they don't trust themselves to stop it if it happens. They know that if they let someone in, they will likely default to their old programming, overgiving, over-tolerating, self-abandoning. They fear their own lack of boundaries more than they fear the other person's behavior. So isolation becomes the only safety they trust. But is this the end of the story? Is the destiny of the good listener to end up alone in a quiet room, safe but hollow? It doesn't have to be. There is a third path. It lies between the extremes of doormat and door slam. It is the path of discernment, and it is the hardest path to walk because it requires doing the one thing that feels most unnatural, being messy. The people who cut everyone off are often perfectionists. They want the relationship to be perfect, or they want it to be over. They struggle with the middle ground, the messy, uncomfortable middle ground. And where you say, I am angry with you, and you don't leave. Healing from this pattern doesn't mean letting everyone back in. Some bridges were burned for a reason and should stay ashes. The door slam saved your life, and you shouldn't apologize for it. But healing means looking at the empty space you've created and deciding to fill it differently this time. It means learning the language of boundaries before the point of no return. It means saying, I can't talk right now, instead of answering the phone and resenting it for an hour. It means saying, that hurt my feelings, in the moment it happens, rather than storing it in the vault for 10 years. It means deconstructing the belief that you must earn your place in a relationship by being useful. It means finding people who want you, not your utility. People who are okay with you being tired. People who are okay with you being grumpy. This feels terrifying. To a survivor of emotional burnout, setting a small boundary feels like an act of war. You expect the other person to explode, or to leave, or to shame you. And sometimes they will. And if they do, that is data. But sometimes they won't. Sometimes you will say no, and they will say, okay, no worries. And in that mundane, undramatic interaction, a rewiring happens in the brain. The nervous system learns that it can protect itself without nuking the entire city. It learns that connection and safety can coexist. If you are the person who has cut everyone off, know this. You are not broken. You are not cold. You are not a sociopath. You are a burn victim. You touched the stove of intimacy and you got scorched, so now you refuse to enter the kitchen. But the silence you have built is a hospital, not a home. It is a place to recover, not a place to live. The goal isn't to go back to who you were. That person is gone. The goal is to become someone who can leave the door unlocked because they trust their own ability to close it if they need to. Not a slam, just a latch. You didn't walk away because you didn't care. You walked away because you cared too much, and it was destroying you. Now in the quiet, you have the chance to learn how to care for the one person you forgot in the process, yourself. And once you truly learn how to do that, how to honor your own limits, how to validate your own reality, you might find that you don't need to burn bridges anymore. You just need to build a gate. And you, and only you, get to decide who holds the key.